Brandon Graham, 15 years, says goodbye. We talk about it next on the PHLY Eagles podcast with Zach Berman, Fran Duffy, and Trent Cole. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles podcast on a Tuesday afternoon. Bo Wulf, Zach Berman in studio. We will hear from Fran Duffy in a bit and Trent Cole a little bit after that, as we are here to celebrate and unpack the retirement of Brandon Graham, Zach Berman, after 15 years, the most games played in franchise history. And I think you could make the case the greatest Eagles career in franchise history. Brandon Graham hangs it up. What a scene it was today.
Yes. Outstanding scene, deserved scene, touching speech on his part, really poignant perspective in the Q&A that followed, the press conference that followed, and just it was emblematic of like who Brandon is. You know, he was authentic. There was what really touched me, and I know we'll get into it. Is you saw Brandon Graham the father, you saw Brandon Graham the husband. Like, in addition to Brandon Graham, the football player, and Brandon Graham, the teammate and the Philadelphian, those who are around Brandon, you know, in the locker room, know like how much his family means to him, and how he's always talking to his wife and talking about his kids, and that came through. And then you saw too how much he meant to teammates from different or from different periods. Fletcher Cox
generations
was there.
Is right.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts was there. Thomas Booker, J.L.X. Hunt, Matt Lee. Like, you go on down the list. Connor Barwin. And Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman, and it was a day, a moment that Brandon Graham earned and deserved, and it was cool to be there to experience.
Yeah,
it.
that longevity is so impressive. I mean, in the NFL, obviously, 15 years period is kind of insane, and in the same place. There's a reason it had never been done before. Remember, like, always as a kid growing up with my dad, we would play like the Kevin Bacon game for sports. Like, how do you connect one player to another through the teammates? I mean, with the Eagles, you can get from like Derek Burgess to J.L.X. Hunt in one move through Brandon Graham. Like, it's crazy how long he's been here and how sort of ageless he has been, not in play, but in the way that he approaches things. And, this is one of the things that he talked about, and one of the things that lots of his teammates and coaches have talked about over the years. But like the consistency every day, showing up with a smile on his face, bringing that energy is a part of the reason that he made it this far.
Yes. And, it was interesting hearing him say to his son, like, in our house, the men get up first. And the reason
not
is
the case in my house.
Well, no, because I'm going to point this out, because you talk about the consistency. There was a period of time when the players parked in the same lot that we parked in, right? And I bring this up because Brandon Graham's car was always the first spot, backed in. His car was there because he was there early every morning. There was a consistency to the way he went about his job. The enthusiasm that he has every single day, it's contagious. Like, that's not hyperbole to say it's contagious. Players will talk about how, like, you get annoyed by it sometimes, but like you can't help but smile, and like he brings that energy, and I think that is so important. He used the term a few years ago. He brings the good juju, and I think there's something to that. Nick Sirianni had that quote earlier this year that every workplace needs a Brandon Graham. I wouldn't even say workplace. I think like every person needs a Brandon Graham. Every person needs like that enthusiasm, that excitement, that positivity that he brings. And I think that did come through in his speech today.
And it's such a beautiful Philadelphia story of the arc of his career. I mean, forged in the fire of those early seasons when, as he would tell you, he was considered a bust, and he's blocking everybody on social media. And today he's talking about, he needed his wife, Carlene, to sort of bring him back outside and get out of, feeling sorry for himself for all those things. And then goes on to make the most important, best play in franchise history, sacking Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. There's a reason that, he's going to be on sort of the Mount Rushmore of Eagles. Not necessarily the best player in franchise history, but I think a good case, and I probably would say, like, the best Eagle of all time.
And elaborate on that. What do you mean by that?
Well, he's been 15 years, most games played. He made the most important play in franchise history. He's been there for all the big things, and I think he represents everything that the Eagles care about and want. And so we will get to like what his legacy is just as a player on the field.
Yeah.
But I think, like, in terms of everything that the Eagles want to bring into the building, he is so emblematic of it all.
It's a good point. It's a very human story, and that's what came through too in his speech. You mentioned Philadelphia. He said we didn't get off on the right note, right? Or we didn't get off on a good note. And those first few years were rough. And he's told the story in the past about how going into that 2015 season, or 2014 season rather, if Travis Long doesn't get hurt, then he might have been cut. And I remember free agency after that year, he was close to signing, I believe, with the Giants at one point. And he comes back to the Eagles, and the career arc that he had, it wasn't really until when Jim Schwartz got here, and he referenced that he kind of found his footing. He dealt with injuries early on, scheme change. But it's fascinating when you think, if we did this show 10 years ago and you brought up Brandon Graham, the word association would be Earl Thomas, because he was associated with the Eagles passing on Earl Thomas, and he was always referred to as a bust in that regard. And now he's out. His career's lasted longer than Earl Thomas, Jason Pierre-Paul. Like, he is 15 years is so hard to reach. As you said, the most games in franchise history, 2 Super Bowls. It was not lost on me that those Lombardi trophies were up there. And he referenced that. He would look at them a few times, and like,
what a flex that is to just be sitting up there with 2 Lombardi trophies.
Exactly. And you asked him about the sack on Tom Brady, like, and he doesn't run from that. Like, he runs to it. He loves talking about those moments and talking about the plays. And it's the same thing with the fan base too. Like, I've talked to him about this before. He says yes to everything. He is everywhere. We go to the same pizza shop. We go to this, my barber used to cut Brandon Graham's hair at one point. And but I'm saying, there is no, like, the Kevin Bacon game can be played in the community, because he's not reclusive. Like, he is part of this community.
And, he did this today. He walked in, and it was very full circle. He walked in and, like, shook the hands of everybody who was there, and that is how he came in back in 2010. I remember that day very vividly. The day after he was drafted, he came in, this fresh-faced guy, 22 years old, which, by the way, is the same age as Keely Ringo is right now, and Keely Ringo is actually a year younger than Quinyon Mitchell.
Boom. Take a shot, yes.
And I remember that day so well, and he remembers it well, obviously. And he has. There have been the ups and downs of his career, but he has had that smile the whole time.
Yeah. A little awkward for me today, though. I went in for the handshake,
and he came in for the hug.
He went in for So
yeah, I mean, I feel like you're trying to keep it professional, but he's not playing anymore. It's okay.
Still, I went in for the handshake.
Was it a professionalism thing or an anti-touch thing?
No, it was a professionalism thing, and it was also, like, not trying to be Brandon Graham. It's similar to what I said about Saquon Barkley, where, like, everyone, I had that sit down with Saquon. I'm like, I'm in with Saquon, but everyone's in with Saquon. Everyone's in with Brandon Graham, right? Like, everyone feels like they're. It's part of that personality that he has, is that he brings you in. He makes everyone feel important.
Whether you've been covering the team for 1 year or 25.
Exactly, yes.
All right, let's, do we have Mr. Duffy? Not yet. Okay, well, we'll get him in a second.
What was your favorite moment from the speech?
There was a quote that he said that I wrote down because I wanted to make sure you heard it. because
Okay.
I think it was a very important thing for you to hear. Now, I think there was a lot of connectivity between you and Brandon Graham. I think you probably try to approach your day-to-day basis
Very much so. I
the
appreciate
way
you saying
that
that.
he
Yeah.
does,
Yeah.
bringing that positive energy. But there was an important thing he said that I really want you to internalize.
Okay.
Okay. Do you know what this was?
I'm curious. Which?
He said, "You're not going to make everybody happy,
Yeah.
so stop trying."
Okay. So that was your favorite part? Yeah.
I don't know if it was my favorite part, but that was the part that I wanted to really make sure that I underscored for you.
Okay. I like that. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I would say for me, if we're gonna get personal on the show, what
Please.
it was him as a father was really touching me
Of
because
course.
I've shared this a few times, not like in complete detail, but a lot of the conversations Brandon and I have had during the past year or 2 years have not been about football, but it have been about fatherhood. And like he's given me advice that's actually been really sound and stuff that I've tried to apply in my life. And it was such a like he was speaking at one point directly to Bryson,
Mhm.
right? And that was touching and talking about how the way he wants his kids to see him and how he wants his kids to learn from his story and from his community work. That to me really stood out. You had the line, was it, I forget which story it was, but that Brandon's the talk on speakerphone with his wife guy. Wait,
Mhm.
Which story was that?
Probably Carlene.
Oh yeah,
the
that's
day
what
with-
that's what it was. Yes, okay, yeah, and like as I said at the top of the show, you can't be around Brandon Graham and not hear about his wife Carlene and not hear about Bryson and Emerson. I should say Emerson and Bryson. So that really came through
What
in the
is
speech today.
Is there a specific piece of advice that comes to mind?
Yeah, I'll say it on here. I don't believe I'm speaking out of turn because it's applicable and it's kind of honoring him too. Is we were lamenting at one point missing, our kids play in the same league, and we were lamenting missing it because we had missed like 2 of the first 3 games. And he says to me, he looks at me dead in the eyes. And this was like a Friday, and he had to go. And he said, you got to understand, you can't be at everything. He said, but you have to be present when you're there. And he said, and my kids know that when I'm there, I am always present, and like nothing else during that time matters. And like they have your full attention. And he's like, that's what you have to focus on. And
That's great advice.
it was great advice. And it was something that I've really, when I go out dinner with my kids, I put my phone away, and like I think of Brandon Graham. That, and then just the other, like there's, if you see Brandon Graham out at a restaurant, like he is nice to everybody.
Of course.
And I've told my kids that, like, there is no such thing as a bad day, because everyone they meet, every kid who meets Brandon Graham, like that's their story of the day, and he knows that, and he really focuses on that. And we spoke about that, like how much he puts into every interaction. So but when he was talking to Bryson, is something that I could have really empathized with.
Very well said. Let's go now to a man who spent a lot of time working alongside Brandon Graham in the NovaCare complex. That, of course, is Fran Duffy. Fran, how are you? Do you have a favorite BG story or memory?
I mean, there's so many like little moments, and obviously the big moments, right? Like obviously the nothing bigger than Super Bowl 52. Like obviously being in the stadium for that play. But for me, I worked for the Eagles for 14 years, and BG was there for every one of those years. And the big thing that people would always ask me is like, oh, like what is it like, working for the team, and are you around the players, are you around the coaches, what is it like? And my answer would always be that the players and coaches, like they're just regular people. They're just like us, right? There's some people that you love to be around. There's some people that you don't love to be around, and then there's everybody that's in the middle. BG is in that first group where, and I don't say this to be hyperbolic. He is someone that when he comes into a room, you can't help but smile. Like he's just one of those guys that just lightens the mood of every room that he walks into. Our office, our workspace was, where the studio was near the cafeteria. You had to go out of your way if you were going to stop in there other than like if you're going to come in and do a shoot. And so whether, BG was coming in to, if he was doing an interview with Dave Spadaro, or if he was going to come in to do something for EAC, which he was always extremely involved in, BG would a lot of times come out of his way. He'd be going in for breakfast or going for lunch or stopping in for a snack or, whatever at the cafeteria. And he would poke his head in and be like, what's up, guys? Eagles Entertainment, what's going on? He was one of those guys that always went out of your way to make you feel to make you feel good. That to me is like the thing that I was always think of. And even as Francis has gotten older, and he would ask me like about players on the team. Brandon Graham was my guy. That was my favorite guy on the team. Yeah, just because of who he is off the field.
I wanted to ask a follow-up to what you just said, and because you have a unique perspective to this. And hearing Brandon speak today, and he would reference specific people in the organization who maybe fans don't know about. And he referenced, for instance, Carly from Community Relations. And as he was going around, there were different people in the media who like you used to work for the team, and he had special embraces with them. And I'm curious, like the demands outside of football that some of these players have. Whether it's community relations, whether it's Eagles Entertainment. And Brandon, from my understanding, is like as agreeable as anyone has ever been. What perspective do you have on that? Because after he had his press conference today, he went to the cafeteria. He was kind of embraced by the members of the organization. So what does he mean to like the non-football parts of the building?
I mean, he is going to be extremely missed in that building. And who knows, I don't know what
he is going to be there for him like all the time.
Yeah. So, I mean, like everyone that works there has an interaction with Brandon Graham, and some more regular than others, right? Depending on what department you work in. But everybody that if you step in that building, if you're in there every day, you're going to come across him, and he is going to make himself heard and felt and seen and in the best way possible. And, Zach, you mentioned look, whether it's marketing or corp sales or EAC or Eagles Entertainment, whatever it is, social media, everyone knows there are going to be those asks on the business side of the building, and some players are more agreeable to those than others. And you don't want to over ask. Right. But BG, no matter what, he would always be down for whatever you needed. And if it was hey, we need this short social thing, or hey, we need somebody to come in for an interview. And Bo, you remember what these were like, where it was sometimes you just know, you have your reliable ones that you would go to. And then you have, other guys there's just yeah, we all like this person, but we're not going to bother asking because that he's going to say no, right? And BG was one of those guys that just always said yes to everything, and never complained about it. Never gave you never gave. He was always down for everything, whatever he could do to help.
Now, I don't want it to get lost in the retrospective on Brandon Graham's career. What a good player he was, and so right. when you watch him play. What stood out to you from all those years? It's he's 6'2", 265. He is not a big guy.
Yeah.
And I mean
relatively
speaking, but relative to defensive ends in the NFL. And yet he's not a speed rusher. He is overpowering guys. It's a good example of low man wins. But what were sort of the most fun parts about watching Brandon Graham play to you?
Yeah, the play personality of a guy that he plays 1,000,000 miles an hour nonstop every single play, and whether that meant playing for Jim Schwartz in the wide 9, whether that meant playing for Billy Davis in the 2-gap 3-4 where he had to stand up off the edge as a backup and play 8 to 12 snaps a game, whatever the role was, or if he was kicking inside on third down, you were going to get nonstop effort. Someone that was going to always fly to the football. Was he always the best, dropping in coverage? When he played in that 3-4 scheme, no, but he did everything that was always asked of him, and then always again just constant pursuit of the football, and you just saw that pop through time and time and time again. And I know you guys have talked about and will continue to talk about just the resiliency he showed through all of the schematic changes and the things that he had to show throughout his career as he went through all the different forms of adversity, whether it was injury, obviously schematic changes and all that. But again, just kind of put his head down, went to work, and kept going through it. And this was a guy that was able to win with power, was able to win with technique, and was able to win with effort. And that's when we're doing our draft stuff all throughout the spring. It's all, to me, it always comes down to boiling it for players. What are the different ways that you can win? And with BG, like, again, he had that ability to win with quickness. He could win with power. He could win with effort. He could win with technique. That's a lot of different ways you could find your way to the football. And so that was, to me, is one of the things that always stood out.
The other thing that I always think about with him as a player beyond the pass rushing is you are never, ever going to beat him on the backside of a run. Like, he is always going to be there ready to blow up that play. And if you try to run that play against him, you have not done your schematic homework. Like, every single time he's going to blow that bad boy up.
No, like blocking with a tight end, that's silly. Why you would bother trying to do that? And just you're running away from him. He's going to make the play. If he's going to line up inside on a pass rush down, like he's going to beat the guard. He's a guy, again, that just found so many different ways to win, so many different ways to get to the football, and obviously too and this goes back to just like the personality, but I mean, anything with him mic'd up is just going. The fans are going to be missing that for years and years.
So if you're in the coaching room or in a team meeting and Nick Sirianni or Vic Fangio or Jeremiah Washburn or Howie Roseman are addressing the team about what can be learned from Brandon Graham as a football player, as a teammate, like what comes to your mind? What would the football perspective be on what can be learned from Brandon Graham?
Well, he would be a player that, to me, the physical outlier aspect of it. Bo, you hit it a little bit earlier. Like, he's not a big guy, and I can tell you, like, when Chip Kelly, one of the big reasons why that was a possibility where they were going to move off of BG was like he was not built the way that outside linebackers in that 3-4 scheme were built. Like, he wanted guys that looked like Deion Jordan, guys that were big and long and athletic and could move and do all these different things and have that versatility. And BG was the opposite of that. He had shorter arms. He was a little bit shorter. He was a little bit squattier, but it showed that ability. Regardless, he was ranked extremely great. He graded out extremely well, across the board. Every single year he was asked to play in that scheme, and just again found those ways to win. I think that going back to one of the things I said earlier, just finding ways to check as many boxes. That's something you learn from, and then also. And this is something that I think is extremely important and gets undersold, especially in a market like Philadelphia, is the mental toughness that it takes to be able to fight through adversity. And I think that that's something that all teams know this. That's something that scouts are always trying to dig up on players. And honestly, it's one of the ways that teams miss most often, because you just don't know if guys have that, if they haven't faced that level of adversity. But if you are a little bit immature when you get to your new city and things don't go well, how are you going to fight through that? And what are you going to look like coming out on the other side? And I think that's something that obviously BG faced that early in his career and came out better for it.
Yeah, Zach brought up the Earl Thomas, Jason Pierre-Paul comparisons from early in his career. It's a good reminder of how much things can change, how much the narrative around a player can change, how much the truth can change. Like at that point of his career, that was the truth. He was not Earl Thomas, but the way that he aged was unbelievable. 29 sacks the first 7 years of his career, 38 sacks the last 7 years of his career. That includes like one season that was washed out and another half season. Super impressive. Let us know, by the way, in the comments your favorite Brandon Graham moment. Fran, any final thoughts on BG aside from him also being famous in the locker room for the noxiousness of his particular odors?
I mean, it's been said, but the laugh, BG's laugh is unreplicable, unless you're Boston Scott. Boston Scott's impersonation of the Brandon Graham laugh is one of the best things that I've ever laid my ears on. If you have not heard that, that's something to seek out.
All right, Fran Duffy, thank you so much. We will see you on Thursday for the PHLY draft show with Fran Duffy at noon, and then we'll also see you for the Eagles show at 2 o'clock. Good luck with the rest of your day studying those draft guys.
Sounds good, guys.
Thank you, Fran. And we take a break now to hear from our sponsors. Back just after this. We start with our friends at Glatt Hair Restoration. At the Morgenstern Center for Orbital and Facial Plastic Surgery, they recently welcomed the Glatt Group to the practice, creating an invaluable opportunity to leverage Dr. Glatt's high-caliber brand equity and begin an exciting chapter in Dr. Morgenstern's highly respected legacy. Dr. Morgenstern is a nationally recognized specialist and among the few surgeons in the country who is trained in oculofacial plastic surgery, facial cosmetic surgery, and general trauma surgery and ophthalmology. As a true advocate, we are excited at Glad Hair to have John Marks spearheading their marketing campaign on their new platform, educating the audience through authentic stories and an engaging narrative. If you would like more information and are ready to defend your hairline today, visit glathairmm.com. That's glat, GLATHAIRMM.com, or you can call or text 610-980-4000.
We all have that friend who is like the I got a guy friend, right? Which is if you have a leaky pipe or air conditioning issue or a faucet that needs to break, they have this person to fix it or that person to fix it or that person to fix it. Well, if someone asks me, I say, I have Ace Hardware Home Services. That's where I turn because at Ace Hardware Home Services, they're around the block with everything you need to fix it, including the person doing the fixing. Air conditioning issue, like I said, they have a person for that. Faucet you say you fixed last fall, they have a person for that because now they're not just the helpful hardware folks, they're also the helpful home service and repair folks. From plumbing to heating and cooling, they've got the trusted pros to keep your home humming all year long. They're bringing helpful home, the helpful you love, from the store now to your front door. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get you started on your next project.
All right. We're waiting. Trent Cole joining the show in the middle. Go ahead.
Yeah, just a few quick things that I think is some housekeeping with this is Brandon Graham said today that had the Eagles not won the Super Bowl, he would be pushing to come back.
He would have thought about it, yes.
But he kind of framed it like he would be asking them. Like I think they were.
Oh, did you think it was asking them? I thought it was asking his wife.
Oh no, I thought it was asking them.
Interesting. I was reading it more as like pushing for one more with the family potentially.
Maybe could be that because he did say it was going to be the farewell tour. He said quote, if I didn't make it back to the Super Bowl, man, I probably wouldn't be up here right now. I promise you, I'll be begging to come on back one more. But I was happy to be able to make it back to play with my guys, put that uniform on one last time.
Yeah, I wonder if
maybe begging his wife.
We have sort of undersold the story of just how crazy it was that he was able to come back and play in that game and then re-tears the triceps. I mean, like what a way to go out, like a hero. But I wonder if when he suffered the original injury in Los Angeles, if he thought that was it.
It's a good question. And I was actually reviewing those quotes recently. And yeah, he was talking like this is, I remember him saying, if this is how it ends, I have no regrets. Right. But and he said this today, the injury did put a little damper on what he said was going to be his final year. Like he didn't want it to end that way, right? He wanted to go out on his terms. Mm-hmm. And it is, like you said, remarkable, absolutely remarkable that he was able to come back for the Super Bowl.
It's crazy.
And then re-tear it. And I remember him talking in the locker room leading up to the Super Bowl. And it was framed, what's the risk? He's like, well, the risk is just tearing it again. Right?
Well, he said he didn't even know in the game that he had torn it.
He's like, it's not that big of it shows you how tough these guys are. He's like, he's like, it's not as bad as the knee. It is. He's a tough guy. He's dealt with a lot of injuries in his career, you know.
It was also good to get the independent confirmation that that's what happened to Nolan Smith. Which the team has not done.
Yeah. And it was fascinating. I remember it was the COVID year, right? When he tore his Achilles.
Yes.
And you didn't know then how he was going to come back. And I keep thinking among my favorite Brandon Graham stories, maybe my favorite is when you watched the game with his wife and kind of seeing that perspective. But because like what it's like for him to come back and going through that year afterwards, he's a tough dude.
Yeah. It's been awesome to watch the whole time.
Do you think he would have come back had they not made it? Or
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know. I also it is fun to think back to because he didn't play a ton last year.
Yeah.
And then Vic Fangio telling him this summer you're not here on a retirement tour. Exactly. Like, I want you to play. And he was so good this year.
Especially that Rams game, too.
The first half of the season, he was dominating.
Yeah, especially that Rams game.
This was not going out with like a poof. He was as good as he's ever been that first half of the season.
You're absolutely right. And a key part of that defense when the Eagles were, they were, Nolan Smith wasn't playing at the level earlier in the year that he was later in the year. but all these different things he was doing behind the scenes, knowing this was his last year. He said this year he told Josh Sweat, like, Josh, this is your room.
Yeah, that was
right?
interesting, I thought.
And now it's no one's room.
Right.
He was pretty clear about that. But how he really tried to take the time to enjoy this year, in the locker room, off the field. He joked that, like, he made reference to the comments that he made about AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts.
This was a very funny line.
Because he's like, I don't have to, I'm looking forward to not saying stuff and then getting in trouble for it.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, like so many times I've had to just turn off and not be able to watch TV all week because of something I said. I picked up.
And you have said that Brandon Graham was one of those guys who, I don't want to say you can get him to say anything, but
yeah,
he would agree with the premise.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's always going to say he's basically a good lesson in your yes and. He's always going to yes and basically any question.
Yeah, he would just keep rolling.
Yeah. So BG, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is a loser, right? Oh yeah. Just whatever you want. We have him. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Part of Brandon Graham's speech today was thanking the people who helped him early in his career and sort of showed him the way. And chief among those was Trent Cole, who joins us now. Trent, how you doing? Good to see you.
I'm doing great, guys. I'm glad to be on here with you guys.
Thank you so much for taking the time. What do you remember about, young Brandon Graham and him talking about the lows that he was going through early in his career and some of the things that you were able to impart upon to him?
I mean, what he went through his career is it's the same things that we went through. I mean, as players, I could probably speak for a lot of other guys, and it's just like I said, we just admire and we love him, and we're just very, very proud of what he has accomplished and who he's became and what he's done for the city of Philly. I mean, he's led them to a Super Bowl. I mean, this guy's a legend, and like I said, he just very, very proud of what he's accomplished.
We've heard on this show Vinny Curry talking about like the role you play in those young DNs or those young edge rushers back when he was coming into the league. You obviously, Brandon spoke about it quite a bit today. What did you do behind the scenes? What kind of, whether it was wisdom, whether it was imparting professionalism, what were you doing behind the scenes for Brandon Graham that helped him during, as he framed it today, a really difficult part in his career when he was viewed as a bust, when he was trying to deal with all the negativity for such a positive guy?
It's just flat out being a teammate, you know what I'm saying, being a leader and being a brother. And, we all going to go through some highs and lows and stuff. And as a unit, as a unit, you're supposed to, you're only good as the guy next to you. And, we took care of each other. Brandon got a little bit of part of that old school, and what we did, we always stuck together. And one thing we did is we did things, just off the field. It kept us together, and that played a big role in a lot of things, man. Because as a player, you do go through, like I said, he's talking with them highs and lows, man, and it's very stressful. And because you want to be part of the team, there's things that you want to accomplish, and then there's bumps in the road, and you just got to just get over them and keep moving, and that's what Brandon did, man. And you got to be there, man. It's just to know. I know there's a lot of things that I know that he's went through, and got better and got himself to where he can keep moving forward, man. Because it's just like I said, there's a lot of, there's it's a lot of stress in this game, and people need to know that. And like I said, it's just proud of, just very, very, very proud of Brandon, man.
Trent, BG makes it 15 years, the most games played in franchise history. But I do think we need to say for the record, he never did catch you for second on the all-time sack list for the Eagles. You still have that over him, which is nice. But I want to ask you sort of one thing we've talked about with Vinny is like the connectiveness between the eras and the wisdom and the stuff that you imparted upon BG and Vinny, that then gets imparted to guys like Nolan Smith and Jalen Hunt. Do you feel that when you're watching this team from a distance? Do you see sort of the connectivity between those things that you tried to tell them and now they're trying to do on the field today?
Yeah, I'm a former player and I'm not in there, but trust me, guys. I could see. You know what I'm saying? I could see. And Brandon, like I said, he was in there and I could see he was a force in there. And them guys were looking up to him and they admire that guy. And I'm not surprised by that. That's Brandon. Brandon's a hell of a guy. I mean, a great guy. And he's always been like that. He's been like that since day one he came in. And and he's just I'm just very proud of what he's become because when he came in, I mean, I already knew when I first saw him start out in practice, I was like, man, this guy's gonna be a force. He's the next guy up. That's the next guy. You know what I'm saying? And I did what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to do like Hugh Douglas and Joe McDougal and the rest of the guys did for me. They helped me out. They did whatever they can to help me out if I was hurting in something or I wasn't doing well in this or I could be better at this. They spoke up and voiced their opinion and what I did was the biggest thing that I can tell you that I did it was listen. And that was one of the things in Brandon that he listened and just like I could talk about the rest of the guys. They listen and just very proud of just like I said just everything this man has accomplished, man. I mean, it's on and off the field. You know what I'm saying? This guy, he's a legend, guys. He's a legend, and he's a forever Eagle. And like I said, just I think there's gonna be more great things that's gonna come from him.
What's your best memory of Brandon Graham as a player and as a teammate?
I can say this. I gotta say he was the strongest. He was the strongest, and the man knew he could talk some crap out there on the field, man.
Yeah.
It's like if anybody talking crap, it's gonna be Brandon. And and I can say it's just the kindness and the relentlessness, and just to kind of remind me of myself, just want to get after every play. He wanted it. He had that. He had it. He had it in him. You know what I'm saying? He wanted it every single play. He wanted to go win and he's going to do it as a team.
What does it mean to you, Trent, that he singled you out in his retirement speech today?
Like I said, I'm just glad that I was the impact. You know what I'm saying? Like he was the impact to other players. He's the impact to other players. You know what I'm saying? Other players just gonna talk about him. You know what I'm saying? When it's their time come. But and that's what it's about, man. Just leaving a legacy or leaving an impact on guys, and this is all part of the game of this of this sport. You know, just when it's time, when it's your time, and you want to leave something, and because you care, because you look at them guys as your brothers, your teammates. You know what I'm saying, and you wanted to lead them in the right direction. So, like I said, it's awesome that that he I just got off a flight here and like I said, I didn't get to see the speech. I've just literally just jumped on the show with you guys.
Love that.
And I'm gonna go check it out. But I got a lot of text messages and stuff and everything that he's singling me out and everything. And but the thing is though, that just tells I don't really need to go watch it. I mean, I'm just glad that what I'm saying, I left an impact there, what I'm saying, in that franchise, and especially on Brandon. And Brandon has did I know Brandon. Brandon did the same thing. He's gonna do the same thing. And like I said, why I mean, you gotta admire this guy. This man he was doing stuff. He was a great a leader and a player on the field and off the field. So you got to admire this guy. And I'm talking to the young ones. Everybody watching this, to the young ones. You know what I'm saying? Admire that man. And that man, he's you know what I'm saying. He's left something to you guys, to the guys that's there left on the Philadelphia Eagles. He's left something for you guys. And like I said, it's just I can't be so much proud that what I'm saying, that he said that when I saw some short reels, I guess, that he had no regrets, and that's what it's about.
Last thing, Trent, the people in the comments are live viewers. They're saying you look great. I need to ask, BG retires. There's a spot open on the edge.
No,
you got one more year in.
Never. No. If you know me, no, it's not happening.
What is your advice?
I probably could go play. I probably could go out there and play. I've been blessed.
Game. Come on.
I've been blessed. I've been blessed. I ain't like to. I've been blessed to be able to. I'm feeling great right now. My body's really good. I don't have no pains or nothing. And I've had. I mean, I beat my body up, you know. And but the thing is I'm very blessed to be able to keep moving and doing what I'm doing now at this present time, and just out here living and just moving to this next chapter in my life here, which Brandon's going to do, and like I said, there's a lot of great things just going to even happen then, and it's going to happen now for him. So,
well, that is my last question for you, Trent. Is you gave him advice once upon a time on what it was going to be like to be a pro. Now that you have been through life as a retired football player, what would you tell BG about the next stage of his life?
oh, it's a lot. There's a lot ahead of him, and there's a lot of great things that's going to happen ahead of him because because the person who he is. You know what I'm saying? Just I've always tell people, man, just don't change. You know what I'm saying? Don't change and just be who you are, and like I said, it's a lot of doors that's going to open up for him. That he saw doors that open up for him when he's playing football. Wait till he gets done playing football. There's going to be a lot of doors that's going to open up for him, and I'm excited to see what's ahead of me.
Eagles legend Trent Cole. Trent, thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Appreciate it, Trent.
Of course. Thank you so much. All right, we'll take a quick break to hear from our sponsors one more time and then come back and talk a little bit more about Brandon Graham. I believe we're going to talk about our friends at Bet365. Bet365, where it is never, ever ordinary, whatever the moment is. Bet365 has 90 million users worldwide, and they live stream over 780,000 events each year with early payout offers across the NBA and NHL. Bet365 pioneered live in-game betting, and today they offer the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across 78 sports. New customers now get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5 win or lose. Sign up, use the code PHLY365, deposit $10 and place a bet for $5 to get that $150 in bonus bets again, win or lose. We've got NBA tip-off Tuesdays. Today is Tuesday. That's right up your alley. Here we go. Place qualifying parlay bets totaling $20 or more on tonight's NBA games and get up to $25 in bonus bets. Terms and conditions apply. One more time. New customers get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5 win or lose. Sign up, use the code PHLY365, deposit $10 and place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. At Bet365, must be 21 or older and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Brandon Graham spoke a lot today about the role that his wife plays in his life, and you start that off with an engagement ring. And if you're looking for an engagement ring, the place to go is Golden Nugget Jewelers. For the past 30 years, Golden Nugget Jewelers has operated out of the very same location in the heart of Philadelphia. Customers from across Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and even Baltimore and New York City have come to Golden Nugget Jewelers to find the perfect engagement ring or wedding band. Their staff is highly trained and dedicated to providing a personalized shopping experience. They have a vast selection of engagement rings and wedding bands, along with high-end watches, fashion jewelry, and sparkling diamond necklaces, bracelets, earrings, and more. Receive a final cleaning and written appraisal with every engagement ring purchase. Golden Nugget Jewelers has been a family-owned and operated business since 1987, right there on 8th and Chestnut in downtown Philly. You deserve an expert and the best price. Golden Nugget Jewelers, where Philly gets engaged. Visit goldennuggetjewelry.com today to learn more.
All right. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was good catching up with Trent.
Absolutely. Good perspective.
I did want to ask you, but, Trent was out of town, obviously. He couldn't be there, but there were some, notable Eagles there. Fletcher Cox was there. Jalen Hurts was there, right? What did you make of like the support?
And Jalen were sort of sitting next to each other. It was a little interesting little couple.
Well, no, the couple was Jalen and his fiance right next to him.
Yeah.
But no, it was nice to see Jalen.
But on his other side was Zach Berman.
Well, there was a seat in between us.
Well,
right?
Yeah.
But no, I said hello, and we didn't really chat. I asked him. I did ask.
Maybe the I feel like Saquon might be starting to get jealous about your relationship with Jalen Hurts.
I asked Jalen though. I asked him, was it important for you to be here? And he said he wouldn't miss it for the world. Like a direct quote, he wouldn't miss it for the world. What?
I mean, it's kind of a platitude. Like, it's nice. I'm glad he was there.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
I don't know that that's like a deep insight. I don't know.
I actually think it, look, I don't know. I mean, Jalen is around the country this time of year. I don't know if he's just naturally in the facility every day during March. Like if he'd be here March 18th,
Sure.
Otherwise.
My understanding is his fiance and Brandon's wife are very close.
They are very close.
Yes.
Yeah, they are very close. I can say this now. Is that, do you remember the Cincinnati game when I was talking about there were people on my flight who were trying to get to that game who were more important than me.
Oh.
The two people were Brandon Graham and Jalen Hurts' fiance. I'm sorry, Brandon Graham's wife,
Interesting.
Carlene, and Jalen Hurts' fiance Bree were on that plane.
Oh, that's funny.
Yes. So
were they also at your brother's wedding?
No, they were not at my brother's wedding. Yeah, unfortunately. But they were. I think you asked, did I see anyone on the plane that I knew? And I was like, a matter of fact, yeah.
That's
but,
funny.
Yeah, they were on that flight. Yeah. But Jalen wanted to get a picture with Brandon up there on stage. Held the 15 for 15 years.
Yeah, they're both going Canadian tuxedo. What do you make of that?
Well, they're going denim. Yeah,
Okay, I mean,
denim's in right now.
Could be a message they're sending.
What's the message they're sending?
Just support for Canada.
That'd be a fine message. I love Canada. I would support Canada every day and twice on Sunday. That's actually in right now.
Usually you're working on Sunday.
Yeah, but denim's in right now. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
You're always up on what's in fashion wise.
Yeah, denim is in right now. Yeah.
Okay, what else is in?
Browns are in.
Browns?
Like that shit, yeah. The browns, like beiges. Yeah. That color scheme's in right now.
Okay. What about brown denim?
I don't know about brown denim, but I saw an article about this recently. So
do you think it was a choice by
I get alerts on my phone from Apple News Plus. And yeah, so I'll see so there's I get alerts from like the Wall Street Journal and GQ, and I'll click on it, and sometimes it'll be like different things that are in right now.
So do you think if the two things that are in right now are brown and denim, that Jalen Hurts going with denim means he's taking a shot at AJ Brown?
No, not at all. Not at all. No.
You don't think that this is a sign of contentiousness in their relationship?
No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah.
Okay. One thing we didn't talk about on yesterday's show.
I should have answered when you asked about the Canadian tuxedo. I should have just kept rolling. That's an example that I can. That's something I can learn.
Well, there was another bit of news yesterday, Zach. You saw the guys who were up there with Brandon Graham today, and you saw the tent pole guys up on the stage. Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, and Lane Johnson. Lane Johnson signed an extension yesterday.
He did through 2027, and so. This could mean that he plays 3 more seasons. And I had kind of been thinking 2 more years for Lane. Now he's under contract for 3 more years. I do know from conversations with Lane about this is that he's very much thinking about his legacy. He feels great. He wants to play football. I think, I don't want to speak for Lane. I think there's a part of Lane that's, I don't want to say worried about like life after football, but like is cognizant that life after football is a lot different, and he values the locker room. He's still playing at an exceedingly high level. He keeps himself in really good shape, and so 3 more years. I think that's interesting too from the Eagles' perspective. One of the things when the Eagles drafted Lane, the plan was for Lane to move over to left tackle, and they thought at the time like Jason Peters might have like 2 to 3 years. And Jason Peters played for nearly another decade. And I think I have spoken to Lane about like he's very open with the Eagles about his time frame, and he's spoken to them about other offensive tackles in the draft. But I think too this contract could maybe provide the Eagles clarity that they don't need to go searching for a potential Lane Johnson replacement right now. Maybe that's something like if the opportunity's there, if there's a tackle on the board that they really like. Do it, but that this could be something that they tackle, so to speak, next offseason, as opposed to this offseason if you're expecting Lane to play 2 to 3 more years?
I actually kind of think that that's like a misdirect. I think they are urgently hoping to find Lane Johnson's replacement, given everything that they have ever done in terms of replacing those 10-pole guys along the line of scrimmage and planning ahead of time. Lane Johnson may be able to play 3 more seasons, but he is also 34 years old.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's the older you get, the more likely you are to get injured. That's just an NFL truism. And so I think if Howie Roseman could add one thing to the roster right now, big picture, I think it would be Lane Johnson's replacement.
You think so?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. I don't know if I agree with that. I think he's always thinking about that. I think I know Howie takes particular pride in the fact that they went from Fletcher Cox to Jalen Carter, from Jason Kelsey to Cam Jurgens, right? And the Cam Jurgens was picked 2 years ago, right?
Right.
He had this. So I think that Howie does want that for sure. I also don't think Howie wants to force it either. I think that was,
of course.
No, and I frame it this way, because I think one of the lessons from the Andre Dillard pick was they were really fixated on that. Now they wanted a D lineman in that draft, but they when Dillard was there, they're like, we can get ahead of this now at left tackle, and it maybe not have been the right player. So I think that you really have to believe in the player, that the player can do it. I think if there's,
I think their lesson from the Dillard pick is that was not a player they did enough work on.
True. That's true. Yeah.
I think that's the takeaway for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if they have done work and there is an equally graded tackle and edge on the board for them, I think they would take the tackle at 32 this year.
I would agree with that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we don't really disagree.
No, but I don't think it's like their priority going in this draft is finding Lane Johnson's replacement.
Well, yeah, I don't.
Okay.
Neither do I. I don't think it's by hook or by crook.
Sure.
But I think ideally that would be their ideal solution.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
And we'll hear from Fran. Make sure, by the way, if I can, make sure you are a diehard and you're checking Fran's draft guide. It's constantly getting updated. We are going to have Eagles mock draft appearing on our YouTube channel later this week that I will do. We'll have an Eagles mock draft online. So we have draft coverage out of the gym coming up.
Here is my question for you. The current Eagles roster. Who's going to be the Brandon Graham? Who will be the last player standing from the players on the current roster whenever, 8 years from now, whatever it is? Who's going to be here the longest on the roster?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I have to look at the line of scrimmage because those players age the best, I feel like, right, as opposed to speed guys. And so my instinct would be to go Cam Jurgens, but I don't know if I would pound the table on that. If Jordan Mailata was a bit younger, I would say him. You know what? I'll probably go Jalen Carter. Just because
probably the right.
I think Jalen Carter is going to be like a force for a long time in this league, and so I guess I would go Jalen Carter right now.
I think Jalen Carter's probably have to be listed as the favorite.
Mm-hmm.
I think the two guys who I like, just pure speculation, and cut this in 15 years and see how it looks. I'm going Jalix Hunt for the point you said about line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
I think he has like the comportment that they would like to keep around for a long time. I think he brings some of that like positive energy that BG did. I think Nolan Smith has it too. This is an unfair thing to say, but I feel like Nolan Smith's, I don't know if his body is built to last 10 years. The other guy I kind of think, you talk about what ages well, I think if I had to pick one guy, it might be Cooper DeJean.
Interesting. Okay.
Because I think he can age gracefully to a different position. Like, you could bump him to safety and he's still bringing a lot of the same stuff. And safeties could play until, their mid-30s. Those are the two guys who come to mind for me.
I have a complete wild card for you.
Okay. Lakin Vakalahi.
No. Braden Mann.
No way.
Okay. I'm just saying.
Honestly, I could make a case for Tanner McKee,
but I'm saying punters, like, you can keep the same punter for a decade plus.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have to worry about injury risk. He's young. He's good at his position. So maybe Braden Mann.
How come neither of us said Jalen Hurts?
Maybe Jalen Hurts. Now quarterbacks age well. Yeah. That's a good point. Maybe Jalen Hurts.
Who do you think? Let us know in the chat. Comment down below the video. Who you think is going to be the last Eagle standing, the Brandon Graham of this current roster? Let's check out the super chats that we have. Stephen Lee. BG survived Juan Castillo and Billy Davis. I know that's right.
And Jerry has an arrow. And, Juan Castillo, yeah. But, man.
And Jim Washburn.
And Jim Washburn.
It is so crazy that, he had all of this acrimony with Jim Washburn earlier in his career. And then Jim Washburn's son becomes his position coach, and they're like buddy.
He's calling Jeremiah up to the stage.
What a crazy circle of life in the NFL.
You're right.
David says, from the Super Bowl 52 press box, what was your expectation when New England got the ball back and your immediate reaction to BG's strip sack in that moment?
You want me to go first?
Sure.
My thought was, can they get the ball back with enough time to win the game? Because I thought,
can they let them score?
Yeah, because I thought the Patriots were going to go down and score. Right. That was my honest thought at the time. When the strip sack happened, I thought, oh my goodness, the Philadelphia Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl. And I because I was writing the game story for the Philadelphia Inquirer, and I've talked about this when I was growing up. My dad used to take me to Rich's Deli or Rich's other place, rather. He had a deli and he had the other place. It was called Rich's Other Place, and we used to go for breakfast there. And I remember seeing the Philadelphia Inquirer cover from when the Phillies won the World Series, I believe in '80. And I was like, man, so that whole week I'm thinking I'm documenting history. And I had a Word document up if Eagles win, a Word document if Eagles lose. And I just went to the if Eagles win once Brandon Graham had that strip sack.
Do you remember your lead?
I do. It was to the ilk of like, this is what, this is what they'll be talking about for generations. I have it hung up in my office at home. But there was, it was essentially that.
Okay. I don't think we remembered initially that it was exactly what Shield had predicted. As I was sitting next to Shield during that game, his famous prediction. But I think eventually we got around to it. Kudos to him. Nikki Loves Music with the super chat says, can Jordan Davis become the next BG? Drafted ahead of a stud safety, similarly charming personality. I like that.
Okay. Yeah, maybe so. Here you go, by the way. This night will be remembered for decades in Philadelphia when old friends reminisce about where they were on February 4th, 2018, and parents tell their children about the moment the Eagles won their first Super Bowl. They'll remember when Doug Peterson called the trick play at the goal line, when Zach Ertz dove into the end zone in the fourth quarter, when Brandon Graham stripped Tom Brady of the ball, and when the greatest dynasty in NFL history fell to an improbable champion from Philadelphia.
Nice.
Thank you.
No mention of Derek Barnett, obviously.
Obviously, yes.
Ryan Madden with a super chat. We keep talking about trying to find Lane's replacement in the first, but should they be trying to find a jewel later like Jordan Mailata since they have time?
Yeah, Ryan, I would say no.
Could, yeah.
Yeah, I think similar to what we were saying yesterday about the Zach Bond thing, you can't count on finding a franchise left tackle in the 7th round. Jordan Mailata is like a once in a million, pardon the cliche, but that just doesn't happen. And we've talked about it a number of times. Credit to the Eagles, credit to Jeff Stoutland, but mostly credit to Jordan Mailata because the way he's wired, the way he works, he has physical gifts, but he put it all together. So no, I don't think that will be their play. I think this will be a top of the draft type thing.
In fact, I actually have this spreadsheet up in front of me. So Jordan Mailata has not yet made an initial Pro Bowl team. I see it. I was going to finish. I have a couple seconds to finish. We're going to overtime. Check it out on allphly.com. So Jordan Mailata has not officially gotten there, but there have only been 2 Pro Bowl left tackles, if you would count Jordan Mailata, who have been drafted after the 4th round over the past 13 years, and Trent Brown is the other one.
Is this going to be a bucket column that you write?
This is just the general draft outliers that will be involved in our show on Thursday. With,
I like that.
With Fran Duffy.
So what's your Brandon Graham memory? Football and non-football?
I think my memories of Brandon Graham are probably the initial press conference. I remember very well. That was still my first calendar year working for the team. I remember because Rachel was still living in Japan that year. She did a year teaching English abroad. And so she was able to like watch the PhiladelphiaEagles.com live stream as just a way of keeping touch. Just tells you how much has changed in 15 years. We've got our 3rd kid coming in a month. I think, sure. I think just the general, like the Wolf's Den conversations with him, the cackles, the Hamley, of course. Shout out to Corey Graham. Shout out to Justin Hamilton. And who was the other one?
Nigel Bradham,
of course. Those were always fun. He was always game to talk. And then, yeah, just like the smile on his face.
Yeah.
And then the things we talked about on the field. I mean, the Brady sack, obviously. I do like his run defense on the backside is something that was just so reliable. I think I will stand by the earlier conversation. I think potentially the greatest Eagle of all time.
Yeah, I think the Brady sack, obviously from a football perspective, that's an obvious answer. I think too, you mentioned it, that Rams game jumps out to me, and like he was playing so well, and standing by his locker saying it's done. But so from a football perspective, the way he endured, I joined the beat in 2012, and he was not at, he was during the kind of bust stage of his career, and I remember having a long conversation with him about it in 2015 when he went back to play against the Lions back in Detroit before Thanksgiving, or maybe it was the 16 season, week 3, either one. Yeah, and he gave me a good recommendation for a Coney dog. I'm not a big Coney dog guy, but they were good. And then off the field, like I mentioned, what jumps out to me is like the way that he always makes my son feel like $1 million when he sees him, right? And there's been a few different interactions, whether it's at Hope's Cookies, at the flag football games, at different, there was something recently where I wasn't there and he was there, and he made my son feel amazing, right?
That's great.
And so you make sure you don't cloud your objectivity, but as a father, it's something I appreciate. And then, as I said earlier, like Brandon recognized that every interaction he has with someone, especially kids, but every interaction, like he's making their day. And I can tell you, I got a text from my son during the press conference, like, "Can you believe Brandon Graham retired?" And he wanted to know like every detail about it. So that's what jumps out to me.
That's great.
Yeah.
I should add that the game that I spent with his family watching that game in their box, the memory of them like all getting back together then on the field after the game and him just like unloading was really, that was special.
My favorite anecdote from that story, I'll let you say it, but it was the elevator. Can you share that?
Oh, they took an elevator up to Jeffrey's suite. And then she showed them, there's a framed picture of the sack of Tom Brady, and it's like, your dad did that.
Yeah.
Like that's, it's very cool.
Yeah.
My favorite part of that was when they get on the field in that game. Remember, Josh Sweat had gotten injured, hurt his neck.
Yep.
And so Brandon Graham at 32 or whatever it was had to play many more snaps than he had been playing. And so after the game on the field, he's like, I am tired. It's like like he was not used to playing that many snaps at that point. It was very funny.
Yep.
All right. Well, that'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. Shout out to Brandon Graham, one of the best to ever do it. A pleasure for both of us to cover him over the course of his career. I think between the two of us, we've been there for every one of his games.
That's correct.
So there you go. A lot of fun covering Brandon Graham, and I'm sure that the people in the chat and in the comments will echo that sentiment. Thank you to Trent Cole and Fran Duffy for taking the time to reminisce as well. We will be back with you tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Zach and myself back in the saddle. Plenty to talk about as the Eagles offseason rolls on. But for all of us here, we thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Julia. And as always, to Brandon Graham, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.